Happy New Year. Um, this I can easily say that 2025 has been such a amazing year for me for a lot of different reasons. I felt so much more in peace and with myself and with my faith this whole year or this whole past year, and I can easily say it's been my best year in terms of mental health, physical health, relationship wise, friendships, family members, my older brother recently got married, and I feel like I've gotten closer to my parents and asking really, I wouldn't say thought provoking, but really interesting questions. I think this year I really realized that I have a very, I started to realize everybody's human this past year, like every single person, and that everybody needs to be checked up on, here and there. And I can easily say I haven't been doing the best of jobs of doing that, um, checking up on people and really seeing how everybody's doing mentally. That's I feel like that's something I don't work on. I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't do, which is their parents, their brothers. I feel like for me personally, I see certain people in my life as just like as rock stars, and they're just solid rocks. But I have to realize that that's not the case all the time. I can say that 2026 is very hopeful, or I feel very hopeful about 2026. And it's not that I had a bad year last year. Obviously, I just said that it was a great year, but I feel like something's different about 2026. And, I feel like that's like the general census of 2026 is that it's this, like golden year, or the year that everything turns around. Everybody's sick of how, especially America, like American culture has been in terms of, music, the music that's going on right now, and politics, obviously. But you can have the sense of like renaissance, I guess, or the sense of like everything's changing. And that's what I really like about 2026, I really do feel like I'm more dialed in and more aware of what I want. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's a thing everybody is experiencing right now. And it's honestly crazy to even be alive for something like this, I mentioned this in I think my first video that this channel is kind of one of my goals of next year, which I think me and my family do is that we sit down and kind of like talk about our goals. When I do come home and see them, we talk about our goals for the next year. And I didn't really say this one to them, but I think this channel is my goal, is to basically, I want to see what happens when I post consistently of just this things I want to post, which is just like talking about life and talking about topics. And I want to see what happens when I really stick with this, because I stick with a lot of things. Like I said in that first video, I stick with a lot of things. And my goals for the next year is like really just like budgeting and like financial goals. And yeah, this channel means something to me in a way of like I've basically raw dogging the algorithm, raw dogging life. And I never really do that. I usually try to like finesse my way, or pre-practice things, and this is not that. And I just want to hope everybody has an amazing New Year's and realize that you can do anything you want if you really just stick to it and have faith. And yeah, I think that's all I gotta say with my ramble.